Professor at the University of Ottawa. Dr. Deonandan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine.
Let's begin with the big news. Look at it, we've come a long way. We have the kids' COVID vaccine approval coming, and how is that a game changer? We just had Christine Elliott talking about the rolling of it out. What does it look like to you right now?
Oh, I think it's possibly a huge watershed moment in our response to this pandemic. Possibly, not guaranteed to be. And the reason for that is we have a significant number of children in this country, and we can get them all vaccinated. That's an enormous step towards the elusive goal of herd immunity. And we cannot get there unless the children are immune. That's the first thing. Second thing is because the single largest contiguous group of unvaccinated people are children in this age group, that's where we're seeing a lot of the new cases. So if we make them immune, those cases go away for the most part. And of course, it adds a layer of satisfaction and relief amongst parents because we can now let our guard down a little bit more and allow our children to socialize more and to not have children necessarily bringing infection into elderly grandparents and things like that. So at a personal level, it's a source of confidence. So I think overall, it might be an important historical step.
Let's take a snapshot before we go through the other laundry list of stuff around the virus today. Around the world, we have Austria laying down the gauntlet here and being the first a full vaccine mandate for Austria as the cases go up. They have a low vaccination rate. This is happening in the context of many countries in Europe, including Germany, seeing soaring cases. What are you looking at there as an epidemiologist?
Oh my goodness, there's so much going on there. From an ethics standpoint, this is brand new ground. From an epidemiological standpoint, will this work? I mean, how well enforced will this mandate be? And if it fails, what does that mean for our ability to contain the virus? So I don't think it will fail. I think it'll have some effects depending upon how strictly they enforce it. And will this result in the greater uptake of vaccines when people see that my ability to navigate through society is now compromised to a high extent? I think it probably will. Now, if you cast your mind back many months ago, there were a contingent of people saying we should not be locking down society, we should only be compelling the vulnerable to stay home. And our pushback against that was we don't know who the vulnerable are and we cannot identify them. Well, now we know who the vulnerable are. They are the unvaccinated. We can identify them. So for those who wanted this strategy many months ago, well, now you got it. So let's see how this pans out.
It's true, and as we're seeing it, it is the unvaccinated. Watching here the situations that could change things. The border restrictions for testing have been removed. It was an economic pressure. Was it the right decision?
My understanding is that it's been removed only for short jaunts across the border. And I think that's appropriate because prior to this, you could get a negative test before you left Canada, go to the USA, do God knows what, and come back and use that same negative test to prove your negative status, when in fact you could have been attending endless house parties. So the test, in that sense, was not accomplishing its goal. So you may as well take it off the table. For the longer duration stays, yes, you need a test to come back in, I still think, and that still has some efficacy.
Now, we're also having a lot of questions in the province of Ontario. There was an announcement that people who were symptomatic are now going to be tested in some of the drugstores, the Shoppers Drug Marts there. There's concern about shopping and meandering around with people who may have that virus.
Yeah, this is the devil's in the details. Now, if they can do this completely safety, then anytime we add a layer of testing capacity, that's a good thing. Anytime we make it easier to people to get tested, that's a good thing. But the problem, of course, is can you control the intermingling? And I understand that the chief medical officer has said that we're going to have protocols in place to prevent that intermingling. But again, what are the details here? What you don't want are the people who typically go to a drugstore. Who are they? The elderly, the sick, the frail, to be intermingling with people who are highly suspected of being infected. And I say highly suspected because it's one thing to have symptoms. It's another thing to be showing up for a COVID test. If you're showing up for a COVID test, it suggests you have an exposure. Therefore, you expect to test positive. So if you're symptomatic and you expect to test positive, that's a high-risk scenario. Ideally, we'd be doing this in a tent in the parking lot with separate entrances and guarantees that these individuals will not be in the main store. Absent that, I don't know how this is going to be done safely.
That is not reassuring words, but all those questions going through people's minds. Vaccine efficacy. It's been months since people had their second dose. I got my booster, double dose AstraZeneca person. I was on the let's hurry it up. Now we're hearing a chorus really across North America and in the EU, booster, booster, booster. Are are we correct in being concerned about waning efficacy? And do you think that's part of what we're seeing in Europe?
In Europe, the problem I think is just poor vaccine uptake in general, absent a couple of countries. But it's important to remember that the two-dose vaccine is still highly potent at preventing serious disease, hospitalization, and death. Highly, highly potent. The waning aspects are in its ability to prevent initial infection, which is why we're seeing so many cases amongst the vaccinated. By the way, the cases amongst the vaccinated rarely result in serious disease, so that's an important takeaway. If we want to see that diminishing of cases amongst the vaccinated, I think we're looking at a third dose. This might end up being a standard three-dose vaccine, much like every other or many other vaccines we have to viral diseases, so that's not unusual. If it ends up being a three-dose vaccine that has potency built in for improved prevention of infection, well, the data is suggesting that not only does it improve antibody production, it also improves antibody quality. And that suggests that it's not just returning your state of immunity back to where it was at two doses, it's actually making it better. And that might diminish its ability to transmit as well. And that's a game changer. That means that we can probably rely upon the three-dose vaccine once people get it to quash transmission in most places of the country. So I think it's going to be an important tool that we use in the next few months.
Positive news. We end with Dr. Raywat Deonandan, epidemiologist, associate professor at the University of Ottawa. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.